Let's discuss. Joining me now is MSNBC legal analyst, civil rights attorney, and former Brooklyn prosecutor, Charles Coleman Jr. Charles, thanks so much for being here. I want to get into this because the indictment against Young Thug paints a picture of his record label as a cover for criminal activities and gang recruitment reigned over by the rapper. He's accused of over 30 RICO violations. Let's start with what exactly the RICO Act is, and point out in no way in any part of this conversation are we defending what Young Thug did. This is more about a larger conversation and precedent setting using rap lyrics against defendants. So talk us through the RICO Act.
Well, good morning, Tiffany. The RICO Act was established in the 70s, and its primarily intent was intended to basically prosecute organized crime, mafiosos, mob types, and the crimes that they were looking to target with the RICO Act when it was initially introduced were around mail fraud, around tax evasion, around things of that nature. Now, of course, there is an expanded view of the RICO law that has since become around homicide, violent crime, other different criminal enterprises. But the whole point of introducing the RICO Act in 1970 was really about organized crime, not of this nature. This expansion that we've seen recently to sort of get into the notion of gang activity that we're looking at with regard to Young Thug, that is something entirely new and not what the RICO Act was intentionally passed and ratified to do.
Yeah, it was once used to indict the mafia. Since in 2014, Bobby Shmurda and 15 members of his crew were arrested on a conspiracy indictment, and other rappers have been caught up in this. During a hearing, prosecutors quoted Young Thug's lyrics when arguing that he brags about shooting another rapper's mother, or rapper YFN Lucci's mother, in his 2021 collaborative single with Juice WRLD, Bad Boy. Aside from the morality of this, because I did read the lyrics, I think I'm a bit out of Young Thug's demographic, but I did read the lyrics. I'm not defending that, at all by any means. Whether or not he shot this man's mother, the fact that he was rapping about it, I found kind of disgusting. But I'm a hip-hop girl, I promise you. I feel like using rap lyrics against rappers, that seems like a violation of the First Amendment to me. Am I wrong?
Well, speaking as a former prosecutor, I can tell you this is a really slippery slope, Tiffany. It presents a lot of different issues. As you and I know, as I am very much so a hip-hop head myself, the way that we use language when it comes to talking about our everyday lives is something that is different and not necessarily easily understood by outside culture. And so speaking now as a former prosecutor, to take people who do not understand cultural translation and then to have them with words or lyrics that they believe may mean one thing or signify something that they do not, and put them in front of a jury puts defendants at a significant disadvantage. And I think that people need to understand when you're talking about juries and prosecutors, I can tell you that prosecutors enjoy a lot of latitude in terms of believability because we have the backing of the state. We're representing the state. So people automatically sort of give us a level of credence, even though they're told not to when it comes to what we bring. So even if we don't understand what the lyrics say, if we put that in front of a jury, it is possible that it's going to tilt the scales in our favor. Now, what I will say is that when you have clear and convincing corroboration in the case of YFN's mom actually being shot, and then you have someone who has claimed to actually do that on record, that's when those lyrics are going to come into play and be used in a corroborating fashion. It doesn't mean that he did it. It doesn't mean that he's going to be found guilty because of it, because there's still the standard of innocent until proven guilty, and by reasonable doubt. Excuse me, I'm losing my words today.
Right. That's all good. It's all good. You dropping bars anyway, brother, so go for it.
Appreciate it. And so that is still something that has to be proven. But when you look at how rap lyrics are used in court, that is where it comes into play. If there is clear and convincing corroboration in terms of what actually happened and what can be established, and then the lyrics ultimately sort of buttress that, and they confirm that almost as if it's a confession, then you will likely see them come into play. But just bar none, no, that's not something that should be used against defendants in court of law.
Well, in Maryland, in 2019, the Maryland Court of Appeals ruled it legal to use rap lyrics as evidence in murder trials. I think that's something that could potentially be concerning. And you're right, when you talk about cultural competency, listen, you and I, we're on television before a lot of people right now, but we could have a whole conversation in our language that is only understood by a certain sect of society. And so it is concerning the door that this could open and the legal precedent this could set. could there be a scenario in which a rapper is rapping about something that is more allegory, and prosecutors use that as something to bring a case against him? Because I think in the Young Thug case, there's a crime, and they're saying, well, here are all these lyrics where you rapped about it. Could prosecutors then say, well, we don't know the crime yet, but you said these things in a song, ergo, we're going to go after you, or at least start investigating you based on what you rapped about?
Well, I think that that's possible, but not necessarily likely. I think that when you start talking about the finer points around an investigation, i.e. getting search warrants and things of that nature that require a different level, a different standard of proof around what it would take to actually get those things approved, that's not going to be enough. The fact that someone said, something that sounds like it might be going down or might happen, that's not going to be enough for a judge to sign a search warrant without some other proof of the fact that these things have actually put in motion. And so absent that, I don't see that happening. But what we're seeing across the country in different legislatures, like you mentioned, in Maryland and now in New York, are different sides and different takes on how rap lyrics and how lyrics and creative material can be used in court against defendants. And New York just passed a law recently in its state assembly. Maryland passed a law on the other side. And so I expect that we're going to continue to see this play out in a number of different ways, depending on where you are and where you live.
Yeah. Well, Young Thug could be facing 20 years each for each count. Atlanta District Attorney Fani Willis is looking to pursue the maximum penalties against him. But again, I wanted to have a larger conversation just around hip hop in general. And I think targeting some of these record labels, which are businesses that black men and black people, black women and men are building and running, it sets a slippery slope when law enforcement starts going after that. So you'll have to come back as we keep watching this case.